Hey everybody, I am Haley Gray and I'm the group owner in the Women's Entrepreneur Network, and I hope that y'all are having a fantastic week so far and that you are really enjoying it. It is hump day. Anybody feel like they are going over the hump right now? I certainly do. It has been a wild and crazy week as we are preparing for the One Summit, which is happening a week from tomorrow. So it starts the 24th of September and it is going to be an amazing event. And I posted a question in Women's Entrepreneur Network recently about, what would you like me to cover in terms of topics? And one of them was, let's talk about all the different social media platforms as far as marketing goes. So tonight, I would love if you would give me a live, if you're on a hashtag live, if you're on the live, give me a hashtag replay if you're on the replay, and let me know that you are on there. Tonight, we're going to open things up a bit for questions, and you can give me a bit more Q&A here in the chat box so that I can answer your questions, and I'll post your questions as we go. So let's get real here, talking about different social media platforms and different clients and different types of people that we are trying to attract into our business. So one of the things that I want to start with is that there is absolutely no one size fits all for all marketing, for all businesses. There's no 1, 2, 3 system that is going to work for everybody. Contrary to popular belief, not everything is a hammer. Not everything is a nail when all you have is a hammer. So it doesn't mean that you should be on every single social media platform. And in fact, you shouldn't be using every single form of advertising. And you need to be very particular about your business, your marketing strategy, and how you put things together. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about that and talk a little bit about my philosophy when it comes to marketing on different platforms. So we're going to start with Facebook. And you have to understand that each platform and each piece is a part of a bigger whole. It is not the be all end all. It is not standalone. So Facebook is obviously a platform that I live on a ton because I've got a Facebook group with nearly 70,000 members in it. It is amazing. I get a ton of traction. I get a ton of engagement. However, if you are looking for C-suite owners who have 50 to 100 employees, it's going to be probably a little bit harder to find those people on Facebook and attract those people into your Facebook, right? Facebook is good for B2B, for small businesses. It's really good for B2C, which is business to consumer. It is really, really good for social networks. Anything that you're doing socially, anything that you're doing direct sales, like a lot of times can be really, really phenomenal for Facebook. Facebook has a lot of users that are middle-aged, primarily women. There are a ton of men on here as well. But, if we start talking about your millennials and younger, you're 35 and under, you're going to find less of an audience on Facebook. But if you're looking for a little bit more mature audience, you're going to find more people on Facebook. So what are you going to do? Well, you're going to think about who your ideal clients are, right? So think about LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a platform that is changing dramatically right now. We're seeing tons of changes on LinkedIn as well. So Facebook has completely done itself over. LinkedIn is also doing a ton of changes. I just did training yesterday because LinkedIn is kind of a secondary platform for me. And I actually hire people to train me to do stuff on LinkedIn. Because I have like 4,200 contacts and I do a lot of networking on LinkedIn, but they're always changing stuff and I can't keep up. So what I'm seeing with LinkedIn is the way that LinkedIn groups are working is changing. Obviously, if you're going after professional headhunting, it's a wonderful place to be. If you're going after CEOs of larger corporations, if you're going after people with a particular network type, that can be a really great place to find those business owners. And if you're looking for larger businesses, if you're looking for larger corporations, you're going to find more of those people on LinkedIn naturally than you are on Facebook. Although medical providers and certain types of professions tend to be a little bit harder to kind of dig through the weeds and find on LinkedIn. You know, I don't do a whole lot with LinkedIn ads unless you're doing something that's very high end or you're doing headhunting. Doing those kinds of things work well on LinkedIn. Other types of things, not so much. Pinterest is a phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal driver of traffic. A lot of people are like, Pinterest? I'm like, yeah, Pinterest. If you're trying to drive traffic into a funnel, if you're trying to drive traffic into a blog, if you're trying to drive traffic into a free opt-in, Pinterest is absolutely amazing. If you have a YouTube channel and you're trying to drive traffic to it, Pinterest. Pinterest is a huge, huge traffic driver. And hey, Wendy, good to see you. Hey, guys, how are you? So when we start talking about my favorite platforms, Pinterest is actually pretty high up on my list of favorite platforms because it drives so much traffic, because I can drive a lot of traffic organically to my website. And it's really quite wonderful. If you have a business that has a large visual component to it, it is going to be absolutely amazing for you. And hey, Jennifer, good to see you. So Pinterest is absolutely wonderful. If you can do anything to create graphics, to drive people to your blog, to your website, to your YouTube, and especially if you have a really good call to action with those, you are going to come out on top, right? They are absolutely phenomenal. Instagram has been changing a lot. A lot more videos on Instagram. It's a very, very visual. It's an entirely visual platform, right? So it's images and videos. If you have something that doesn't really lend itself well to images and videos, it's going to be a bit tricky. Where Pinterest, you can get away with driving traffic to YouTube videos by creating a graphic with text on it. It's a little bit harder to do that on Instagram and really get traction. People go onto Instagram, and if you can do something visually, like you're selling apparel or you're selling stuff, Instagram tends to work really well. If it's not so visual, not so much, right? TikTok tends to have a much younger audience in general. It can be a tremendous traffic driver. You can tend to drive a lot of teens, early 20 audience with TikTok. It's entirely videos. It's a lot of fun to play with. Not sure how much business is actually being driven by TikTok at this point. It is clear that there are ways to do sponsorships and to do ad placements and to do things for TikTok that are going to get you traffic, but it depends on who your ideal client is and who you're trying to reach. So like Wendy, I know that your ideal audience is probably not the teen audience, right? So you're probably going to leave TikTok alone. Snapchat's a bit weird as far as platforms go. You know, it's one of those things that people do use a lot of times. So if you have a visual platform, if you can use video, if you can use images, if you can use photos to market your stuff, it can do well. Some people have been very successful with Snapchat, but it's hard to get businesses to take Snapchat seriously. You know, it's kind of got a mixed reputation, and it really depends on your user base. It's one of those 20-somethings kind of platform. not that people that are older don't use Snapchat, but I would say it's at a lesser rate than, Facebook or even Instagram. So, Instagrams are a lot of your 30 somethings. Facebook is a lot of your 35 and overs. Um, TikTok is your youngest audience. And then, you've got Snapchat, which is a younger-ish audience, but somewhere in between. Twitter is another platform, which is a lot of fun to play with. It gets a ton of traffic. You have a wide age range of people. It can also drive a ton of traffic if you do it right. It requires babysitting. I used to think more about doing automated posting, and now I'm really not so much of a fan of doing as much automated posting on Twitter. I am completely altering my strategies for posting on a lot of social media platforms, because the way that the platforms themselves interact and the way that they see automated posts is a little bit different. So, posting is good, but you want to think about how people are reacting to things and how they're interacting with your posts and what they really want to see. Twitter has gotten a lot more visual. There's videos on Twitter now. But it has such a wide age range, a lot of users, and it's kind of like the Wild West. It's a little bit wild and absolutely crazy. One platform that gets overlooked a lot by business owners is Google My Business. Google My Business is one of the biggest contributors to your SEO. So if you are not posting on Google My Business, you are losing out on SEO juice that you could be getting for your business. It is one of those things where, we love getting SEO. We love getting free traffic on our websites. Google My Business is one of those. So if we start thinking about, okay, I have a website or I have a funnel that I'm trying to drive people into, it's probably going to be Pinterest and some Google My Business if you have your funnel built into your website. If we're talking about driving traffic into a traditional funnel, it's probably going to be Facebook ads, not Google ads. If you are a service provider or like a mechanic, a roofer, a tradesperson, you're probably going to be using Google AdWords, Google display ads, more so than using Facebook ads. Facebook ads are okay as retargeting ads or in low-level quantities, but I wouldn't want to spend an absolute fortune on Facebook ads for trades. I just don't see the return on investment for those ads at this time. So you have to think about, okay, what kind of platform do I have? And is it short-term ads or is it longer-term ads? If you're doing short-term ads that are like a couple of weeks, like you're doing a launch, Facebook can be really good, but it can, it doesn't work so well for these like trades and those kinds of things. It doesn't tend to drive foot traffic as much to a store, but it can do really well for those impulse purchases if you have enough of a budget to drive impulse purchases from Facebook. And when I say enough of a budget, I'm talking $2,000 to $3,000 to $5,000 a month. So you really want to think about what your budget is and how you want to come at your business. I do recommend that most people have at least some form of a website. It's not to say that you need to go out and go spend a lot of money on a website, but websites are important for us because they're an online calling card. They give our users a ton of information about us, and it gives people a chance to get to know us a little bit better. But one of the things I see with websites that people make a lot of mistakes with is that they overcomplicate their website. Y'all, websites should be relatively simple. And they should have one main call to action, maybe two. If people are looking for corporate information and stuff, it's not that you hide that information, but the reason that you're putting that website up there is probably to get more clients. And you need to give them a way to get in touch with you and give them that call to action to get in touch with you or to buy from you. And if your website's not doing that, then none of the rest of this traffic driving, lead generation, stand on your head, click your heels is going to do you any good, because they're going to land on that website and they're not going to know what to do next. And if you leave anything up to the imagination, people are just going to bounce off. If you give people too many options, they're going to bounce off. If it doesn't load fast, they're going to bounce off and leave. So it's kind of this whole thing where everything is basically driving people to you, to a call, or to your website to buy or call you. And if you're not achieving that with all of your marketing and doing all of the stuff, it's not going to yield dollars, right? So when we start talking about strategies, all of these things have to work together. And I haven't even touched on sales funnels. Sales funnels, as you guys know, there are mechanical sales funnels and there are in-person sales funnels. So what I say is a personal sales funnel is you've got a system that you're using to follow up with people, sometimes with emails, sometimes with text, sometimes with whatever. That is I go out, I go meet, I touch bases, I send cards, I do those kinds of things. A mechanical automated sales funnel is more of a, hey, get my free download, and then I send you a nurture sequence. So one of my funnels is you join the Women's Entrepreneur Network, and then you get a few emails afterwards with information about the group. So there's different types of sales funnels and different types of automations. You can use a lot of different platforms for it. I currently use Ontraport, Ontraport, is my platform of choice for a lot of these things because I can drive sales and I can do a lot of things with the platform. But you want to make sure that if you're doing this whole emailing, marketing, et cetera thing, that you've got a strategy built in behind it and that you're not just doing it for the sake of doing it. And Wendy says, right, I can't deal with TikTok. I'm just dying laughing when I see that. It's important that we have strategies behind it and that all these things work together. So one of the big mistakes I see people get into in the online space is that they start trying to do everything on every platform. And there's a lot of people that recommend that you start doing all this stuff and that you hire things out and you do all of the things everywhere. I actually advocate going at it a slightly different way. And this is a difference in philosophy. And this is not a limiting belief. This is, understanding that most business owners come into starting business from a limited budget perspective. So if you come into starting a business from a limited budget perspective and you have $30,000 or less, the first thing I really recommend that people do is join some groups and get to start to know people. And then maybe even start your own group and do the Build Your Tribe challenge that I do and get people to start joining that group. Start building relationships, start doing phone calls, start messaging people, and build relationships and start getting clients that way. You can do one-on-one coaching. You can offer people your products and services. You don't have to have a big fancy hoopla website. And it gives you a chance to refine your messaging and lay out all of your packages before you've got to have anything else. And in fact, you can actually start with a minimally viable product, and you can have a system like Dubsado, Dubsado, and you can send out your contracts, you can send out invoices that way, and you can have a workflow that allows you to get clients using Facebook, etc. You don't have to have fancy stuff. Don't even really need to have a huge website. And you can start getting people in the door because you can start getting them onto phone calls with you. So I would say Dubsado plus Acuity gets you pretty far, pretty fast. Once you've got income coming in the door and you've had a few clients under your belt, then what you do is you start adding in the website and start thinking about some lower cost offerings. And when I say lower cost offerings, I'm talking about something that's $77 or $97. A lot of times I see this push to high-end clients online. And honestly, some of us would lose all of our clients if we didn't, price ourselves appropriately. And you have to be mindful of the market and what the market is going to bear when you're, first starting out, and price yourself accordingly to the amount of expertise that you have. But you also have to price to allow for the time you have to spend marketing so you can feed yourself. So there's this balance, right? Then as you grow your business, you can add in more of the WYSIWYG stuff. You can add in other product offerings. You can add in group programs. You can add in those things, the websites, the landing pages, all that stuff. But you don't have to start with posting on every single social media platform 12 times a day. That is the direction of absolute madness and mayhem, because you're going to have to pay a VA and you're going to have to do all this stuff, or hire a digital marketing agency to do all this stuff for you. And it's really hard to afford all of this stuff if you're in, starvation mode. Now, I'm going to say this, if you are starting your business and you have more of a budget to start with, if you have $30,000 to start your business, I would absolutely start with a challenge model, put together an amazing challenge, put together an amazing workshop, start running ads and get people into that free workshop. Yeah, you get so overwhelmed, right? I would do a free challenge and I would have conversations with every single person who joins. You can get people into a free challenge for $5 to $7 each. And, if you want to get 150 people in there times $5 each, you've got your number, right? You can spend $1,500 to $2,000 and completely fill a challenge, and you're going to see a 3 to 5% conversion rate. And if you have the money to do, a landing page with an opt-in and do a challenge, that's a really great way to do it. It's something that I work on with my clients as you get the cash flow to start doing those things. You can build your one-on-one coaching clients first, and then you can build your group coaching programs. And it works a charm. It works a treat. And it doesn't have to be super complicated. And you're still not doing all of the things all of the time and driving yourself nuts. And you're not posting on 23 different platforms. You're not doing all of the crazy stuff all of the time. And you can do it with Facebook ads or not. You can do it with Pinterest or not. You can even run the same challenge multiple times in order to get the numbers that you need. And that's part of what I work on with my clients, is that structure and putting together the strategies of, this is how everything works together. So when we start talking about like all the different platforms out there, you don't need all the new and shiny and different platforms. You don't need all the new and shiny different software that people seem to keep recommending. I mean, honestly, I will tell you to tell people to get their little fingers out of your wallet and, whack those hands back and get really smart about how you're spending your money, because those expenses in your business add up, and they add up fast. Whether you are spending, the money to grow certain things or advertising or whatever, make sure that you're not adding stuff until you are absolutely ready to get there in your business. And, I know that this is not the most sexy advice in the world, but honestly, bootstrapping your business and doing this from the ground up is going to really help you grow your business. So let's talk about this for a second, Wendy. You need to figure out a quilting challenge. So many are free, so you need to figure out why yours is worth paying for. So you can have a free quilting challenge and then people pay you on the back end, or you can charge people a nominal amount to purchase a kit from you. So you can charge them $29 or $39 to get the kit, quilt components, the pattern, etc., from you. And you could either, make it downloadable or whatever, and people buy that from you. And there's lots of ways to do it. I'm not sure, like in the quilting world, what all of the standards are, but if you have a way to sell them the kit, the fabric, the stuff that they can do the quilt with, then that makes it much easier for you to charge money for it, because you're giving them a thing that they have to purchase in order to do it. It really depends on how you're trying to get people in and what you're trying to do it. So Tara, I totally agree with you. Startups need more financially literacy help for sure. And one of the things I see a lot of recommendations for here in the online space is to hire things out. Go hire a VA, go do this. Oh, you don't feel like doing that. Go hire somebody, go hire somebody. if you don't have the money to do it, if it's taking food off of your family's table, then you should not be hiring it out. You should not be spending the money if it is not absolutely imperative to your business that you have that. You know, it can make a huge difference in your business, in your dollars, in your revenue numbers, if you aren't focused on the pennies coming in and going out in your business. So hiring stuff out and getting, you know, putting yourself in debt is not a good way to start a business. And putting everything on credit cards is also not a great way to build a business, because you're spending 18% interest, and that'll drown you pretty fast. So, you know, the outsourcing madness is truly madness sometimes. It's not that you shouldn't outsource stuff. It's not that you shouldn't hire people if you don't have skills to do it. But I think a lot of times we make things way more difficult than they need to be. And we advertise, you know, this crazy entrepreneur lifestyle of, oh yeah, I only work, you know, 4-hour work weeks. The reality for most of us that have bootstrapped our businesses, and I've done this, you know, is that we're working 10 to 12-hour days for a period of time until we have enough money coming in, until we start building those cash reserves that allow us to then turn around and, you know, build those cash reserves so we can eventually really hire somebody and protect our financial thing. Yeah. And Wendy says, and if you're paying somebody else on something that you don't know how to track the value or make sure having them do what is needed is hard. Yeah. And one of the things too that I've had happen, Wendy, is that people will push peas around the plate. So I've had people take hours and hours and hours to do things that should take, you know, 45 minutes, because they're pushing peas around the plate because there may not really be enough work for them to do. And that to me is one of the biggest challenges, because people will take longer to do things than they necessarily need to take to do them. And yeah, and you need to hustle. And, you know, I know a lot of people don't like that word, but to me, you know, flow and ease are important. Picking and choosing the things that are the most profitable to you are very important. Understanding what's being profitable to you in your business is extremely important. And making sure that, you know, every single thing that you're hiring out or buying out, or every bit of software that you're getting in your business, is truly important. i.e., it's adding a tangible security measure. It's adding all of the things that you need in your business, or it's going to eat you alive. And I've seen it. I've had it happen to myself. In my first business, I spent way too much money. I went through a lot of money because I wasn't paying as close of attention. And I had people pushing peas around a plate that didn't need to be pushing peas around a plate, and they needed to get off their butt and go do more work. But, you know, it was easy and I didn't know better. So you can learn from my mistake. And I won't tell you how much that mistake cost me, but I will tell you it was eye-watering, and it was in the many, many dollars range. So, you know, it's one of those things that I've learned. And it's part of the reason I'm very conservative in my advice to business owners. When I start talking about, you know, digital marketing, because I want to make sure that whatever we're doing is seeing a return on investment. And if it's not seeing a return on investment, I'm going to tell you to pull the plug on it. You know, we give it a small amount of time, and then we, you know, we'll work on it for 3 to 6 months. And if it's not going at 3 months, a lot of times we're going to yank it and we're going to try something else, and we're going to put together an entirely different offering that is maybe going to get better traction. So this is a good question. I can't decide what to drive them to after the challenge. I have 25 years of business knowledge. I help people with lots of different things in their business. I want to get zoned in on one thing. Okay. So Denise, what is the challenge that you're trying to do, and what is the end goal for what product or service you're trying to offer? Because if you're trying to offer business coaching on the back end, what is one core lesson that you want them to learn on their way to doing business coaching with you? What is something that is kind of a signature of yours? So one of my signatures, one of the things that makes me unique is I talked somebody out of paying me to do a website today. And I said, let's do this again in 6 months. And part of the reason I did that, yes, Alexa, you can stop, is that, I want to make sure that when we're doing a website, it fits into the overall marketing strategy of the business. That, we have all of your programs laid out, that you've started getting clients on those programs before you start doing a whole new website. So think about, are you going to do one-on-one coaching, or are you going to do group coaching, or are you going to do something different, right? And if you can get to that point of, yeah, okay, I'm doing this thing, this is my signature thing, this is what people really want to come to me for, and this is why it's important, then what you're going to see is a huge growth in the numbers, right? So you get them to come into you for a bite-sized thing. So for me, I do the Build Your Tribe Challenge, right? And we talk about building a Facebook group. And one of the ways that I grow Facebook groups is by using challenges and ads. I am sifting through that group for people who want to build their Facebook groups, maybe using challenges and ads. And people that are not at that point, we put through a nurture sequence, and we get them to keep coming back until they grow their business to a particular point where they're ready to actually invest in doing the challenges and the ads. And it's not inexpensive. Because it's a lot of work to figure out how to do a really good challenge and to lay it out and do all the pieces. So, doing the ads and doing that is important. That, if that is your business model, you need to be able to do those for yourself, and then understand about hiring somebody else out, eventually maybe to run the ads and do some of the tech for you once you get to a certain point. But it's a real challenge. Challenges are huge, but you've got to figure out how all the pieces lay out together, and even pull out a whiteboard and lay the pieces together, so that you can see how they interrelate and how they work together. It's one of the things that's actually been kind of a challenge for me. And, and you go through periodic cycles in your business of yanking things apart and putting them back together again. So you guys will probably notice that here in the Women's Entrepreneur Network, we've been going through a bit of a rebranding this year. You've probably noticed that the graphics have changed. You've probably noticed that the posts have changed. You've probably noticed that we've introduced a website, right? We're doing those things, and we're taking other things away and cleaning other stuff up and scrubbing it and retiring things and making things go away. And we're, changing product offerings and whatnot here, there, and yon. And I think it's important that you do those periodic reevaluations to figure out what's serving you and what's not, and how it's all working for you, and then decide where to go from there. So would charging for a challenge make people show up for the challenge and actually participate? Potentially. You can charge for a workshop. People will pay for a workshop. You could charge them $97 to participate. I have somebody I know who's going to do that. And I think that they will, if they have to pay a little bit of money, do it. It's not a bad idea. I've actually toyed with charging for my own Build Your Tribe challenge to get people to show up and actually do the work. And I'm debating, but, charging for a challenge is not a bad idea, because then you make some money off the front end, but know that you're going to get a lot lower numbers of people signing up. It depends on how solid your following is and how many people you have that you can invite into the challenge, and what you're doing to warm up your audience along the way to get them to that challenge. I teach women how to build profitable, God-honoring businesses. The challenging is a prayer challenge for business women. I want them to come to see me for the God-honoring part. I seem to get more of the day-to-day things, systems of building a biz. Yes. And so, what you're going to want to do is, do that prayer challenge. And then that's going to go into a God-honoring way of building your business and figuring out how it all goes together. So then, you don't necessarily get the general things. You're getting people who are looking for how you put God into the middle of your business, and how you keep him there, kind of a deal. So you have to think about what your messaging is and how the branding is and how all the pieces and parts go together. And then the question is, how do you drive traffic? In your case, I would probably say, yeah, drive them in using Facebook ads, try it a few times, and then make it a bit evergreen and use Pinterest ads, and then some Facebook ads to get people in there. Although one of the things I've been seeing lately is, Facebook ads have gotten kind of challenging to get people into free stuff. And hey, Elizabeth, thank you so much for sharing this. So, I think it's important to think about when we start talking about marketing and where to market. It's not always about the shiniest, newest, ultimate platform. It's really about, looking at what works for you and serves your business and your audience, and where your audience tends to hide, A, and B, where you're most comfortable hanging out. Doing stuff just for the sake of doing it, in my mind, is a really bad reason to be doing things in a business, or because you think you have to do them is also a really, really bad reason to be doing things in business. It's expensive, it's time consuming, we start to hate it. I don't know who they are, and why they have a say over what we're doing in our business. But, it is definitely a thing. Yes, Denise, Facebook ads are getting challenging. They've been getting more and more challenging for a while. Free anything on Facebook is really, really tough. And I think that the audience has gotten a lot more tricky this year. So I agree with you. And this is part of the challenge, like when we start talking about growing a business, is figuring out how all the pieces tie together and how they all work together, because you're marketing, and I'm a marketing girl, but I'm also an MBA. And one of my things is you guys can't tell is systems and processes and making sure everything ties together. You have to make sure that personally and professionally and in your business, all aspects tie together and work together. So, the ads pieces, the marketing pieces have to tie together into your operations pieces and all of that fun stuff, right? So in your case, Denise, it's really going to be about making sure that all of your marketing stuff kind of flows together and that you've got a very clear, very defined funnel. And then you decide how you're going to get people into that funnel. But you have to have a pretty well-defined funnel and service offerings so that you can see how things will actually work together. I'd love to schedule a strategy session for you if it works, and just discuss, because it's a challenge to sit here on Facebook Live and say, hey, do this. But if you can take a whiteboard or a piece of poster board and start drawing out all the pieces and parts and how they go together and work together and all that, I think it gets a bit easier to see, because there's thousands of moving parts. There's lots and dozens of moving parts. And it doesn't have to be super complicated to be effective. And I think that we as business owners a lot of times try to make things super complicated when they can be unbelievably simple. And there is a lot of elegance in simplicity. And I know that there's always this, well, I need to make multiple revenue streams. Well, make one or two of them really, really good, and just kind of shed the other ones and let the other ones go until you get that one or two really, really strong. And then you can start adding new things in. There's this kind of misconception that I see a lot, where we start trying to multitask too hard. And it's pretty common in the entrepreneur space. And, we're constantly trying to do for everybody because we're trying to do too much, right? So let's talk about the God honoring part, right? So what does God honoring mean in a business? And y'all help Denise out and tell us what you think that God honoring in a business means, right? So it probably, to me, it means that you're doing, you're taking off one day a week, potentially, right? That you are following scripture. Which scriptures are you following, right? The 10 Commandments, right? That you are, upholding integrity in your business. That you are donating a percentage of your profits to charity, right? That you're tithing. What does it mean to you to be God honoring? And that's the tricky part, right? So list the 10 commandments of this, or the list of things that it means to be a God honoring business. And when we start saying, okay, so here's what I need to do to be a God honoring business. And these are kind of my key tenets around it, right? So if we start saying, okay, well, part of it is I'm going to have a standard of ethics and a code of conduct in my business, and I'm going to train my employees on that code of conduct. And my employees are going to meet things to a certain level, right? So you start thinking about, okay, it's a code of conduct, it's a code of ethics, it's our business practices, it's our policies and our procedures. And then we're also talking about, okay, so part of this is we're donating a percentage of our proceeds to a charity. We're tithing. What does that mean? How do we share that information, right? I would say almost look at Chick-fil-A, because this is something that they very, very much do. They attract and they recruit and they filter out franchisees based on the morals and the way that they want to see the business run, good, bad, or indifferent. You guys can decide or not, but they have a very, very strong corporate culture. And they're training for that. And they are educating their managers for that. And they have the policy with people that you can own one Chick-fil-A franchise. And you're going to want to, run only that one Chick-fil-A franchise, but you're going to make a good income doing that. And you're restricted from doing other things, right? So think about how corporate cultures are set up around that, right? SAS is another company that has a very, very strong, very specific corporate culture. And they're also local to me. So SAS Systems is a large software engineering company that's local to me. They provide child care for employees' children, up to 2 children, on site, and it's like $200 a month. There's all kinds of programs. They provide a huge pension, amazing benefits. They do all this stuff, right? And part of it is that they're encouraging people to stay on campus. And think about what that culture is and what they're trying to get their employees to do and why they're trying to get their employees to do it. So think about what a God-honoring culture and a mindset in a business starts to look like. And this was something that we did a ton of studies on at Duke, actually, in talking about corporate culture. There's a lot of books on corporate culture, so you may be able to look at some books on corporate culture and be looking for certain standards and ideals. And then what you're doing is you're creating a process around those standards and ideals. And you can help people define what their standards and ideals are in any given instance, so that it becomes non-denomination specific, and that you're helping people, you know, start the conversations, right? Narrowing it down is actually quite difficult. But you kind of have an idea of what you want. It's just putting together the systems and the processes to help people get there. And a lot of it is going to be, you know, handbook related or whatever, you know, and this is my system for most businesses. And this is how it kind of works. You know, it's going to take some soul searching and some digging, I'll be honest. Building a culture or building a reference and doing the systems and processes around it is pretty substantial amounts of work. You know, it's probably going to be reflected in contracts and user policies and end users and all of the things. So, you know, I want to encourage you to really think about, you know, how you're doing that. And I agree with Elizabeth. Keywords are so helpful to narrow things down. And it will help you really figure it out. Like, think about it as a business in a box almost. So what would a God-fearing, God-honoring business in a box look like? What do all businesses have in common? And you can even have, you know, 2 CRMs and this and that and the other, and it gets really simple from there. So yeah, I hope that that is a little bit of help. I wanted to bring your attention to the WEN Summit that is next week. We start next Thursday on September 24th. It is going to be an amazing event. We are still taking vendors and sponsors up through the weekend. We are adding our vendor booths to the website, and you're welcome, Denise. And it is going to be an amazing event. We have got 18 speakers and a couple of amazing surprises coming in. And we're going to be talking about building your dream business online, because honestly, that's where it's at. We're all here in the online world. Since COVID-19 hit, we're all dealing with online. And we're working on pivoting to this crazy wild west that is the online world, where you get great advice and some really crappy advice. And we're going to be talking about sales. We're going to be talking about using video. We're going to be talking about PR. We're going to be talking about mindset. We're going to be talking about goal setting. We're going to be talking about friendships, because these are all things that are important to having a successful dream business online. And tickets are available right now. They are at wensummit.com. And it is amazing. And we're going to learn from each other. There is open networking available. We're going to have a breakout in the WEN Summit Facebook groups. We're going to have breakouts in our Zoom rooms. We're going to have booths. Believe it or not, we've got virtual booths going on. And it's going to be amazing. And I want the best for you guys. Part of why I started the Women's Entrepreneur Network is to help businesses get into business. But, you know, the really hard part is actually staying in business. So that's part of why I created the WEN Summit, is to help people stay in business. That's part of why I do these crazy lives. And I tell you the truth that maybe some other people don't tell you. And I'm not here to sell you nonsense and fluff. I'm here to help you get the resources you need and actually make serious money in your business. So I hope that you will check it out, wensummit.com, wensummit.com. It's over here on the screen there. And I would love if you would attend. I would consider it an honor. Consider this your invitation to come. I hope to see you guys soon. I hope you have a phenomenal evening. I know that I am going to go crash and burn like nobody's business. Take care, and we'll see you soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.